All right, we are live. Jen, Chris, you guys ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool.
Live and ready.
Live and ready. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Shelf Life presented by the Genesis Company. If you're unfamiliar with Genesis and who we are a full-service retail brokerage and an e-commerce agency that exists to help brands like you, CPG brands, grow in today's retail environment, which is not just retail stores. There's a gigantic e-commerce part that every brand needs to really be aware of and capitalizing on in this omni-channel space that we live in. Today, we're diving deep into Amazon. Case in point, Amazon has a lot of options on how you can win on that platform. And we want to make sure that all of you understand how to get maximum impact from advertising full funnel ads on Amazon. So that's what we're going to dive into today. I'm Matt Adelman. I'm the VP of Sales at Genesis for food and beverage specifically. I am joined again by Chris and Jen, who are two of our managing partners here. They're the experts in Amazon. So I am going to let these two run the show today. I'm going to moderate. If you are joining us live on LinkedIn or on YouTube and you have questions on this, or you want to just chat a little bit, feel free to drop a comment as we're going through this. And Tiana is moderating for us. She'll make sure that we get that comment. And like always, if you're watching this at sometime in the future and you have questions on anything that we talk about, just shoot us a note. We're all active on LinkedIn. Our emails are on here as well, whatever works best for you. So, Jen and Chris, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Amazon. Right?
All right.
All right. I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Where do we start with this? Where do most brands get Amazon ads wrong, and what do they need to be aware of?
Let me see. We may have just lost Jen. And if we do, oh, here's Jen.
Okay, I'm back. Okay, great. Sorry.
This is live, folks. People don't believe that we're live. We are. We're live right now. It's real.
You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, let's, before we get into everything, let's ground everyone with, what are the three main types of Amazon PPC ads? I think it's probably important to start there.
Perfect.
So people go to Amazon to shop, and we know that 59% of surveyed shoppers say they're most likely to make a purchase from an ad that they see on Amazon, and that 25% of surveyed shoppers discover new brands on Amazon. So it's super important to have advertising on Amazon. So there's three types of main brands when we're talking PPC ads. So there's sponsored display, sponsored brand, and sponsored product. So we'll go into each one a little bit more in depth, but from a very high level, sponsored display helps bring awareness to your brand both on and off Amazon. So you can use and leverage things like audience targeting based on their shopping behaviors or their interests. So it's very top of funnel. Sponsored brand then helps you get more into the mid funnel and helps you tell your brand story. So you can showcase multiple products at once from your brand, use some custom messaging or video there. And then sponsored product is really high intent conversion. So you're putting your products like right in front of people when they're doing active searches. So you're one of the first posts that show up when they are searching for a product. So it's high intent bottom of funnel.
I know you've got display or examples listed here, Jen. As we go through the different types of ads, are we going to dive in deeper to where these actually show up on platform, just so people can really wrap their heads around this?
Yes, and when we go into each one, we'll show you like a bigger picture so you can actually see what it looks like. I know these are kind of small.
And maybe this is basic and maybe everyone knows this by now, but just to clarify, PPC ad stands for?
Pay-per-click.
And that is the main source of advertising on Amazon?
Yes. Yep. There are DSP ads. We're not going into that today. That's a whole nother conversation that we'll save for another time. So we're just really focusing today on sponsored display, sponsored brand, and sponsored product ads.
Perfect. Well, great setup. Thank you.
I've got one more thing to talk about before we actually dive right in. So let's talk about the full funnel. So actually, I think the next slide goes into that.
Oh, super. This is what I was wondering.
So we know that brands that adopt a full funnel ad strategy see an average of 30% lift in their sales. So it's important to look at it full funnel. A lot of brands, when they go onto Amazon, it's a common mistake is they just go to the bottom of the funnel and they do advertising, just, sponsored product ads on those high intent searches. But you really want to look at that full funnel approach. And so, at the top of the funnel, you have awareness, mid funnel, you have consideration, and then bottom of funnel, you have that conversion or purchase, and then loyalty. So really with awareness, you want to get on the radar of shoppers. So really plant the seeds. So you're going to focus on like kind of storytelling, your benefits, have great lifestyle creative, that sort of thing. When you get to more of the consideration phase in that mid funnel, your goal is to really nurture interest. So you want to drive clicks to your PDP pages. So use like reviews or comparison copy, things that would really spark that interest and really nurture that consumer along. And then at the bottom is really kind of that purchase or conversion. And so, you want to make sure that you have a really great listing so that you have keyword optimized titles, you have that great A+ content and images, you have reviews in place so that you can really convert that customer into, or convert that user into a customer, I should say. So you'll see that as we go into each of the display or the ad types, where they're at in the funnel. So you start with the sponsored display, which is more awareness into consideration, and then the sponsored brand ads, which is more consideration into the purchase, and then sponsored product really is down at that purchase, bottom of funnel.
And if I heard you correctly, Jen, most people, when they think Amazon ads, they just jump into that bottom sponsored product ads and they sort of neglect two prime ways to get your brand in front of people.
Yeah, totally. So you got to really think about it as like a layered or connected approach. So it's kind of like a relay race. So, each layer has to really support the next. So think about it like awareness hands off to consideration, then consideration will hand off to, a purchase or conversion. So you just have to really think about it as like that race, not as an individual event.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Nice.
Let's dive in.
I love that graphic. I mean, like you guys were saying, we have a product called Growth IQ that lets us look at Amazon accounts and kind of gauge their strategy. And then we actually give the brands a playbook on how to accelerate their sales. But what we've seen from that is just the number of brands that are only using sponsored product ads. It's really common. And like Jen was saying, when you're activating full funnel with each of these ad types, you have an increase in sales and return on ad spend. So this is a cool graphic because it does illustrate kind of that importance of mid and upper funnel as well. So yeah, let's dive in. Sponsored display, is that what we had up? So this is an important ad type. It does play mostly upper funnel, a little bit of mid funnel in there as well. But it really helps target shoppers that are, browsing, that are targeting their interests or maybe a specific behavior. It's really good for retargeting as well. And it allows shoppers to cross-sell, kind of cross-shop your portfolio. Because you get this specific ad type, we call it a skyscraper. It goes across the top of the search results, and you get a nice lifestyle image, and then you actually can show 3 different products within that same ad type. So it's great to either cross-sell or perhaps upsell products. But you can also target competitive listings with this ad type. So that's one thing that we like to set up is we call it competitive conquesting. It's basically finding products that are similar to your brand or product that people are shopping. And you can place an ad right under the buy box of a competitive product. And we know that about 18% of shoppers are actually going to click on those ads. So it's really useful for that buy box placement as well as kind of that standard skyscraper ad. We probably have an image of that on here, I think. So here it is. This is perfect. It's perfect. So you get that right across the top of the search results. You have the lifestyle image, but then you actually have 3 different items there that you can promote and really cross-sell the line.
So in this example, they're searching queen sheet set.
That's exactly right. Yep, exactly right. So it's all based on the keyword search queries. and we'll kind of get into some of that in here too, is like really how to work within those match types. But yeah, this is someone searching queen sheet set, and the display ad is right across the top. So what do we have next?
Yeah, let's talk about sponsored brand ads. So I love sponsored brand ads because you can really drive people to your brand store. And once you're on your brand store, it's great because competitors can't show up on your brand store. So it's a good opportunity for brands to really showcase their overall brand and then drive to that store. So the sponsored brand ads, and we'll show an example here in a second, but it's, it's still banner style ads that have, you can put your logo on there, you can have your own custom headline, and then you can showcase 3 different products. You also can have side placement too with a banner. And so again, it's an opportunity to showcase your brand and then different products you have within your brand. Help tell your story a little bit more. You can build that brand recognition, and then really drive that traffic to that store page. So on the next slide, I believe there's a bigger example of that. And so for queen sets, you can hear it's showcasing, some really nice features and benefits here. Hope on the top, and then on the left hand or on the bottom, it shows it on the left hand side. So it has that brand logo, and then driving people to, again, that brand store.
You know what else that we don't have an example on the slide of it, but the sponsored brand video is a really cool ad type. It allows you to put a video right in the middle of the search results. And so it's actually like on loop. It's a moving asset that's right in the middle of the search results. And you only pay if somebody clicks. So it's like having a television commercial running right in the middle of the search results that you're only paying if somebody clicks on it. So you're getting a lot of eyeballs, a lot of interest. And then
like YouTube ads.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, it stops the scroll too, because everything's so static that you see that movement and it really stops you in your tracks.
Yeah, so I think, Chris, you mentioned video, and Jen, the 2 examples that we have here. I'm assuming, so if you're going to run these 2 ad types, if I'm a brand, you better have good lifestyle images, or is it just product images? Like, what do you need to really make these 2 ad types perform?
Both. You definitely, want to always make sure you have great lifestyle images and great product images as well.
And so do you think, or maybe you know this for a fact, the reason that brands don't use these 2 ad types as often is they're harder to set up? They don't have the assets? Like what?
It could be they don't have a brand store. I mean, we always recommend brands to set up their brand store. Like I mentioned before, it's a great opportunity for you to tell your story, and then also get competitors out of there so that you can shop the full brand. So I think, that's one definitely reason why people don't do these ads. Or they just go right to the funnel too.
And sorry if you're going to say this, but are there any other like tips and tricks when you're running these ads on how to make them perform? Does that come later, or do we dive into that now?
Yeah, we can certainly talk about them now for sure. So, we want to make sure that you have really strong imagery, copy. You can test different, you can do your own custom headlines. So, it's always good to do A/B testing and things like that. And then make sure that your PDPs are really optimized too, that they look good. You have the A+ content, and you have great product images in there. You have all of the keyword, enriched copy. So, really making sure that you set that up well.
Sure.
It's super important.
That was a big point. I think it was last week when we were talking about it, is making sure that the listings are advertising ready. And it's exactly that point of when you are actually driving traffic to your brand store or your pages, you want to make sure those are ready to convert, that you have all that copy optimized. And I was thinking about your question, Matt, on why brands don't run this, and maybe it's they don't have the assets. I do think that's part of it, because you really do want to have good lifestyle images for these ad types and really good videos for these ad types. And we were saying last week this idea that being a merchant is about telling a story, providing excitement, and elevating the emotions of the shopper. And that's what these 2 ad types really do help with, is kind of telling that story and showing how these products fit into your life.
That's a great way to think about it.
And then we get into the bread and butter, which is really the sponsored product ads. So these ones are kind of the most common. They're bottom of funnel, high intent, high converting. These are the ads that show up as the top 4 listings in the search results. So when you search something on Amazon, those first 4 listings are sponsored product ads. And you can see that from the picture, they have a little sponsored note on them. That's how you can tell it's an ad.
Sure.
So there it is highlighted right there. And you just put your sponsored product ads on the keywords that you want and try to get that, upper search rank. And there they are. So usually this is like probably 70% of the budget for brands that are running all types, 60 to 70%. A lot of times it's the majority of the spend because it is high conversion. The other 30 or 40% of the spend is more on sponsored display, sponsored brand, and some auto campaigns as well.
That was going to be one of the questions, Chris. Thank you. The reason people start here, I'm assuming, is because that's where the most spend goes, and this is like pure straight conversion. But the other two, like you said, that's where you get all the eyeballs, right? That just pure straight impressions on your brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And because you can have more lifestyle images, you can have your brand listed right on the ad. You can promote multiple items, and they serve different purposes. Like for sponsored display ads, you can put those right under the buy box on a competitive listing. There's another place on any Amazon listing. If you scroll down, it says similar brands on Amazon.
Yeah.
And those are sponsored placements, and those are sponsored brand ads.
Okay.
So these ad types unlock these additional opportunities to get your brand in front of the customer. And then also, you're sending traffic to the brand store with the brand ads where, again, there's no competitors there. And here it's just more like search results, high conversion, ads. So they all serve different purposes and play different areas of the funnel.
These sponsored product ads, is it just one? Is this literally your listing just shows up in the sponsored spot? And it's the image from your listing, and it's everything from your actual your product page.
That's exactly right. Yep.
And then the other two ad types, you can add creative to make them look better, tell a better story.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. One thing on that note too, it's your actual listings. So ratings and reviews, and I know we talked about this on another session that we had a couple weeks ago, but it's super important because your ratings and reviews show up right there. So you want to make sure that you're, advertising on products that have strong ratings and reviews, have that keyword optimized title, all that good stuff.
That's a great point. Like you probably want to focus your spend on the most proven items, because you don't want to spend money for a sponsored ad and have it sit there with no reviews on it. And people just, it happens to me. I'll see a sponsored post for an item where it's like, what is this? There's zero reviews at all.
Yeah.
No thanks. Give me the one that has a little more social proof.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe we could get into just kind of how to start with thinking about these ad types and using the different match types that are out there for keywords. One of the things that we really do, we were talking about earlier, kind of how you would split up the budget. And basically what we do at a really high level is we put a really low amount of budget on auto campaigns. Basically what that is you tell Amazon to look at your listing and place the ads where Amazon thinks it will convert. And you would think that'd be a great idea with their algorithm and everything, but it's actually not very effective. It puts ads in places that don't seem to make a lot of sense, but once in a while they really find some gold. And so we'll put like 5% of the budget on these auto campaigns. And the rest we're actually managing much more manually with the different match types. So those are going to be like the phrase match and exact match and the broad match, which we have right up here. So you can see those 3 buckets of broad match keywords, phrase match keywords, and exact match keywords. And what that really means is you want to do your keyword research to find out what people are searching for, what the monthly volume is of those searches. And then you want a mix of kind of the high intent and broad keywords that are, keywords that have a lot of monthly searches, and some that we call long string. So we've got an image here on the deck that will show like in the batteries category. The long string keywords are going to be like AA batteries, 18 pack, whatever it is, where there's a lot more words typed in. We call those long string. They tend to be higher.
There's no volume.
So yeah, there's not a lot of volume, but they also tend to be higher intent because it's like exactly what people are looking for. Whereas if you say AA batteries or AA battery, tons of volume, more expensive to bid on that. And so what you want to do here is kind of come up with a strategy where you're utilizing each of these match types. The exact match is going to be like, show this ad when the search query exactly matches the keyword. So if you put bids on AA batteries, when somebody searches that exact keyword, your ad can appear there. We also use phrase match, which is basically going to say, show this ad if there are words before or after the search query, then show the ad. And then broad match is going to say, as long as all the keywords are part of this search, doesn't matter the order, then show the ad. So you're getting, as you kind of work up that continuum, you're getting a more broad audience because you're kind of finding out what they're searching for and placing your ads based on, these match types.
Where does a brand put their brand name? Or is that different?
Okay, so that's a good question. We have a category, it's just probably internally, but we have a category that we call must win. And that's going to be branded search primarily. If somebody's searching for your brand, we want as a defensive tactic to basically own that, where we're going to have the top listings. And a lot of people think like, why would you put any budget on a branded search? Like if they're searching for your brand, they want to buy your product, you should just have them buy it and try to do it organically. But competitors can bid on your brand name and they can have their products in the first few placements.
Sure.
And they will take some traffic. So from a defensive standpoint, we like to just own branded search.
And for finding these keywords, I know that's part of why we exist, is that we help. How much input does a brand have here versus like, do brands need to understand some of this when they come to us and start working with us? Or is this like, you don't need to know anything, guys? Like Genesis has us covered. We'll figure out keywords. We know how to do this.
I mean, we do all the keyword research here. We have all the tools to do it. The ones we work primarily with are Helium 10 and also Jungle Scout. So those are the two tools that we really use. I mean, brands really don't have to know it. They could just tell us, hey, run the ads and do the research, because you actually want to have hundreds of keywords that you're testing through these. Okay. Because sometimes you'll test keywords and they just won't convert well. They won't have a great return. And some of them will really scale. And so it is an iterative process of testing these campaigns at low budget and figuring out which ones are going to work, and then putting more money to the ones that are working and converting and removing the ones that really aren't converting. So, a lot of brands don't have those tools to find the keywords. And if they're not actually placing the ads, really they don't need the tools.
Okay.
I don't know, Jen, if you feel differently there, but
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's great to have a little mix of some insight from the brand as well, where like a new competitor emerges. It's good to know that kind of information. So it's a little bit of a collaboration for some of that too. But you did mention something that I think is worthwhile, because you talked about negative keywords, and so it might be worth just spending like a minute on negative keywords and just the importance of, if something's not performing, to make sure that you put it in the negative keywords and you're not spending on it anymore. So you don't have wasted ad spend.
Yeah, that's really interesting. When we look at all these Amazon accounts, it's very rare actually to see brands utilizing negative keywords. But basically it really means if you've got enough data to say, when this particular keyword, you're bidding on it and it doesn't convert. It's got a lot of clicks, but it's not converting. And you can find out why it's not converting. You can actually remove part of that search query and say, if this phrase is in there, don't show the ad. And that's a negative match. And we use them because you can just automatically increase conversion rate from that.
Yeah, I had a brand that I was talking to that they're electrolyte powder, and they found that if they excluded protein, they saw a huge lift, because when you're searching protein powders, you do not care about electrolytes necessarily, and they kept getting stuck in the protein powder bid.
Yeah, exactly.
So turning that into a negative, like, nope, if someone wants protein powder, we don't want to be there.
Yeah,
it helped them anyways.
Coming back to your point on brands with keywords, Jen had a great point there on sometimes they have insight on things like competitors, but they also have insight on maybe adjacent categories or like items, things like that they're shopping. So I think it's more context that they can really overlay, and then we can do the keyword research related to that.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Did we want to get into like metrics and things to be considering here? What success look like? I know we're bumping up on time in a few minutes.
Yes,
where do you guys want to take it?
That's a great point. So key metrics, KPIs. This is kind of what we would say would be high level target, but it really will depend on the brand and their goals. So just as we talk through these 4 metrics, we generally like to see the total advertising cost of sales, known as TACoS, at about 15%. So what that's going to be is just your ad spend divided by your total sales on Amazon. And so it's like an ad spend to total sales ratio. We want to see that about 15%. Now, some brands might be in a really offensive, posture where they want to sacrifice a little margin to take market share, and they may invest that at 25%, things like that.
Sure.
And other brands that have a lot of traffic coming in off platform, they might say we want to run it at 10%. And so it is a little bit based on the goals of the brand, but generally 15% TACoS. And we like to run ACoS, which is the advertising cost of sales. We want to run that at about 30%. So that's basically ad spend divided by the sales coming from ads. Because your total sales on Amazon are really split between sales coming from ads and organic sales, meaning just organic placements that you're not paying for. And really scaling up the organic sales is the way to make more profit on Amazon, because you're not paying for those clicks at all. You are just ranked high on Amazon based on your sales velocity, your reviews, low returns, good stock position, all of that organically. And of course, all the keywords and optimization, all of that organically is going to pull your listings up. So when we think about sales split, between organic and paid, ideally we like to be around 60% organic sales and about 40% of the sales coming from paid ads. And the reason we still like that 40% is it's getting a lot of new to brand customers. You know, it's folks learning about your brand from these different tactics. So if you're just all organic, you probably are taking a little growth off the table.
Sure.
So we like that 60-40 ratio. And then conversion rate, round number 10%. We feel really good about that. Now, if it's a really high price point, it's going to be probably a little lower, different things like that. But generally, if you are within these ranges on these 4 KPIs, things are looking pretty healthy on Amazon.
Can you give just a general, I know the answer is it depends, but general timing. So if I'm a brand and I come to us to you guys to Genesis, and I today am like 20% organic, like 80% of my volume is ads.
Yep.
And we put some of these things into place and we help them over time get more into line with what you're showing here. Rough estimate on how long it takes to sort of optimize or right size an Amazon account?
That's a great question. I would say kind of the minimum is around 90 days to really start to see the improvements. Because what happens when we first start working with a client, especially if they've come over from a different place, what we want to do is find out where the wasted ad spend is in the campaigns. And generally there's a lot of clicks with 0 sales on certain campaigns. So it's just wasted spend. So we want to take that and redeploy that spend into new ads. We also see a lot of times we will see like too many ad groups in the same campaign, things like this. This is getting really tactical, but it basically will take up all of your budget on the first few ad types, and you don't get any budget to the rest of them. So basically what I'm saying is we have to organize the whole campaign structure, and that takes 30, 45 days to start to go. We usually make some updates on the copy and in the content on the pages to help with conversion rate. And there are a lot of iterative processes to move organic rank. We've got a product called RankIQ that helps move organic rank up. So I think, Matt, to answer that, 90 days is a good target of when brands should really start to see things making a positive move.
Cool. I love those it depends questions, but it's what everyone asks.
Yeah.
I need help. It's broken. Fix it tomorrow.
Well, and to your point, I mean, some brands have like a really great creative library, you know, with tons of content. It's a lot faster for us then because we don't have to create all the content. We just have to create the new ads and things like that. So, you know, some brands don't have a brand store, so we have to build that. So that is why it depends, because everybody kind of comes in a different state. But really the cleanup of the ad account is generally what takes us a little more time to start to see the turn.
Thanks. That's perfect. Tiana, I'm going to throw it to you for a second before we start to wrap this thing up. If there's any questions that came in online. Looks like question came in. Is it better to launch all ad types at once or to phase them in?
Okay, there's a good question. Generally, we are going to launch them pretty close together. Might be a little more of a phase in, like on the sponsored brand ads. It also depends, like if they don't have a brand store, then you really can't run the brand ads to send traffic to the store.
Yeah.
So that one would lag a little bit more, but generally the first one for sure is going to be the sponsored product ad, because that's going to pull you into the search results. And then working more mid and upper funnel with sponsored display and sponsored brand. But we don't let a lot of time go by with just one ad type, maybe right at the beginning. But we pretty much get them all going.
And then question 2 was how often should I be updating creative and adjusting bids?
Good question.
Well, that's loaded.
Yeah. So we'll start with creative because they're different. I think creative, you should, well, when you first go on, make sure you start strong with great creative, but then, look at it maybe every 4 to 6 weeks or maybe even sooner. So if you're launching like seasonal promotions, you may want to adjust the creative to really reflect that. Or if your performance drops, you might want to adjust the creative. So I'd say generally like 4 to 6 weeks, but it could be more than that. So you definitely want to keep testing. And then from the ad side or the bid side, you should be looking at that weekly at least at a minimum. So you just continue to adjust based on performance. Keep adding those negative keywords in to cut that wasted ad spend. But
Yep.
It's a continuous process of looking at that and adjusting.
Yeah, I think the other point on that's not really related to the ads, but as people are leaving reviews, really looking into what they're saying, or if you're getting returns, understanding why you're getting the returns, because it might be that people don't know the dimensions and they get it and it doesn't fit or whatever. So that's an indication that you should put up an infographic with the dimensions clearly and help facilitate the shopping experience. And you might add that right into your feature bullets or title. So I think really being attuned to the review feedback and any return feedback you get, or buyer seller messages as well, that is also going to drive the need to update creative and content.
That's a great point.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. I know we went a little long. I know Jen has one other thing she wants to talk about. So Jen, take us to the finish line here.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this has been a good session. So thanks for joining, everyone. But real quick, I just wanted to talk about a limited time offer that we have here at the Genesis Company. So we work with a lot of brands that have recently been affected by tariffs. And so we want to help ease that burden that brands have felt the last couple of months. So we're offering a limited time promotion for a limited amount of new clients. The promotion ends next Friday. So if it's anything of interest, you can contact Chris or myself or Matt on LinkedIn or email us. But we're offering 2 months free of our Amazon services. So it's a $6,000 savings and, includes the product listing optimization. We do the PPC advertising. We daily are managing your campaigns. We put together your reporting. We have all the brand support for you. So it's full service.
And I know yesterday that was 6 spots. So it is very quickly closing. That's cool to see.
Definitely. So act fast.
Cool. Good opportunity.
Yep.
Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate the last 4 weeks. I know it takes some time to come on the show and spread the knowledge, but I know personally I've had quite a few people reach out and say thank you. The value that they've gotten has been fantastic. And, the topics have been really good. So thank you guys. I know next week we're shifting topics here. We're going to switch more to D2C and talk about Shopify, Meta, Google, the other crazy part of e-commerce. And Jen and Chris will still be here as much as they'd like to, but we have a couple other guests that'll be coming in that really specialize on Meta in particular. So that is going to be super exciting. And in about a month, we'll get to actually talk retail, which is our main bread and butter. But this has been great, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of the week, everyone. See ya.